Hello, everyone, and good evening once again to the VCO Studio show with me, Ben Constanduros. We are in week 2 of January, and we've already kicked off with the biggest of the competitions across esports for the sim races. The PESC Championship kicked off on Saturday, and at Interlagos it was an incredibly exciting event, and some new names featured at the front of the field, including the winner of the feature race who joins us this evening, Kevin Ellis Jr. What a weekend for you in total, Kevin. Not only a win in Interlagos, but also in the GB competition as well.
Yeah, it's been a surreal 24 hours for sure. Coming into Saturday, we felt strong, but I didn't think a win was quite on the cards. One thing happened after another during the race, which I'm sure we can go into a bit later. And as people have maybe seen from watching the race, it was, just a crazy event. And then obviously on the Sunday, couldn't celebrate too much on the Saturday night and straight into the Porsche GB on the Sunday. And again, things sort of fell my way and managed to come away with a win there as well. It was, without a doubt, the best weekend of my career, and it's still taking some time to sink in.
And what clicked over last weekend that perhaps hasn't clicked before? Was it just you're going to put it all down to luck?
I think the team certainly worked better as a unit. Obviously, we've got Zach Campbell just came in from the qualification series to help us this season, and we of course signed Jeff Giassi as well. So 2 new signings there. Definitely strengthened the squad. Another 2 names to challenge me and everyone else in the team. And I think just having an extra few guys on pace to push me and to teach me a few new things, along with some of the adjustments to the car. I spent a lot of time after the adjustments came out to really try and get on top of it as soon as we could. And it seems to have paid off. Obviously, hard work never fails. It's just, such a great group around us. I think that the team is so much stronger than it was even in 2020. And with the adjustments to the car as well, as I said, just getting on top of that early was key.
Talk about the adjustments to the car. What's changed for you in the way that the car feels, and has that played into your hands particularly?
So there was a massive reduction in overall downforce of the car, so the actual grip compared to even 2020 is a lot lower. Typically, I've always been quite good on worn tyres as soon as the grip begins to fall away. Although my wear percentages might not look necessarily good, my pace has always been quite strong. So as the handling gets quite poor, that's normally when my pace begins to pick up. But how the car used to handle at the end of a stint in 2020 is sort of how it handles from the start now. So the overall handling of the car sort of suits me a little bit better. I've got a more smooth nature, so it sort of just my general driving style, I guess, is helped by that car, along with a couple of differential changes as well. So the way the car handles under braking is a little bit different to how it used to be, and especially on throttle with the differential and the combination of less downforce, it's really on edge to drive. So I think it really does benefit the more relaxed, smoother kind of driver. So I think, just a combination of, as I said before, like the better team and then the changes with the car, have just sort of fallen into my hands quite nicely at the minute.
It doesn't sound like it's an easier car to drive, that's for sure.
No, it's much harder than it was even last season. It was a handful in 2020, but this season it's it feels like you're driving in the wet come the end of some of the races.
And by the looks of the races at Interlagos, at least, it does seem as though the draft effect has been changed quite a bit as well, and it kind of created more interesting racing, I suppose, to watch.
Yeah, something we were quite concerned about actually coming in. There was a few tweaks again with the less overall downforce. Of course, the drag has been affected with that as well. And during our test races, it looked more like a NASCAR race for us, which I guess is kind of worse because in our test races we were all really close on pace. I mean, everyone was within 1/10 of a second per lap, so it might look worse for us because we're all on relatively the same setup and we're all so close on pace. But actually, when you get into the race, it wasn't quite as bad as we were expecting. I think some teams maybe had a little bit more downforce than us, some maybe had less, so it kind of stretched the field out a little bit. But not for sure with the long front straight and with it being uphill, it really invited a lot of close racing and plenty of overtaking opportunities. It's something that I struggled with come the end of the feature race when Mitchell eventually caught me from about 2 seconds back. He was just gaining that 10th or so a lap that he gained down the front straight and come the end, it was quite hard to defend. But it makes for exciting racing. It's you can't deny that. It's just from a driver's perspective, it's a little more awkward.
And so, for those people watching this evening who perhaps have not heard of you in the same sentence as Josh Rogers, Benike, and all the legends, Sebastian Job of the series, where does your story begin in terms of motorsport and esports? What was your first kind of early memories?
So I started off watching Formula One. I'm sure, like many, my dad was into it when I was young. I think I started watching in around 2002, so I was about 4 at the time. I still remember seeing cars like the Arrows and stuff on the grid. Those were kind of my first memories of Formula One. And then as I got a bit
Oh,
older,
poor you! Your first memory of a Formula One car is an Arrows.
Yeah, exactly. I know I couldn't have picked probably a worse car at the time, but yeah, no. As I got a bit older, though, into the mid kind of 2000s, I began playing the F1 games. I had Formula One 2004, 2005, 2006, all the way up until about 2016.
Wow.
And yeah, just from a young age, I was just playing all the F1 games on a controller. Had all the assists turned on, was just playing career mode just for fun. I think when I was really young as well, I was even commentating on the races as well, as cringy as that sounds looking back on it now. But yeah, it just used to play the F1 games, then stopped playing racing games for quite a few years. Around about 2010 or so, I was playing first-person shooter games a lot more, like Battlefield, and got pretty good at games like Battlefield and Call of Duty. And then I think I was on holiday with my family in 2013, I think it was, and I just happened to be scrolling through YouTube and saw one of the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series races at the time. And I sat and watched it and just fell in love there and then, seeing people like Gregor Houtu up at the front, Hugo Louise, guys like that. And I used to look up to them and think, wow, these guys are, they're actually making money from this. This is really cool. And then around about February of 2014, got into iRacing and slowly worked my way up. And yeah, it's the journey since then it's flown by the last almost 7 years now. But yeah, I think it was 2016. I joined the Apex Racing Academy, and in May of 2017, I joined Apex Racing UK, which then became Apex Racing Team, and I've been there ever since.
Yeah, and as you told us off air, that's now progressed into a relationship with RLL to have RLL Esport that you represent in PESC. How has that changed anything within the team so far? I mean, it's quite a late announcement.
In terms of how the team operates, in preparation and stuff like that, no, not really. I think everyone still works just the same. It's just that Zach Campbell and myself are on loan to RLL Esport for 2021. Nothing has changed internally in terms of how we, as I say, prepare for races or anything like that. But to have a name like that on board, I mean, they're Indy 500 winners, they're IndyCar champions. I think they've won the Daytona 24 as well in the BMW in the GTE class with the BMWs. I mean, it's such a legendary name to have in esports, and even this time last year, I wouldn't have expected anything like this. As grim as the COVID outbreak has been and the pandemic, it helped us esports guys out a little bit and brought a lot of these real life teams over to esports and kind of gave them a bit of a view into what we do. And RLL were one of those guys who really liked how Apex operated as a team, and they backed us for the Indianapolis 500 in 2020 on iRacing. Me and Zach Campbell ran for them in the BMW 120 at Road Atlanta just as a one-off. And then as the Porsche Esports Supercup wound down at the end of 2020, we had a couple possibilities to make something of this. And it was all, as you say, last minute. I mean, on the Friday night before the race, the announcement came out, we had to sit on it for quite a while. And yeah, eventually it got announced. The cars look awesome. The crew has been awesome. Everyone has just been so supportive on and off the track, and it's just an absolute honor to have them on the car and to win on their debut as well. I mean, yeah, it was a crazy weekend for sure.
I have to say, when I first saw your name, especially with the junior thing, I thought, well, Rahal Letterman, American team, must be an American guy, not a Scot.
Yeah, I've had that quite a lot. A lot of guys on first look think that I'm American, but no, I just thought the junior at the end was something different to have. Yeah, just when I started on iRacing, I thought I'll throw it in there, and it's sort of sort of stuck ever since. And I guess you see the junior, you think of Dale Jr., that kind of stuff. So I get the
Yeah.
I get the correlation.
And do you think that RLL will be kind of positioning you throughout this season, asking you to do certain events that might crop up that perhaps are more American focus?
Um, I've not heard any word yet, but I'm absolutely not against it. Anything we can do to strengthen the relationship and really close the gap between esports and real racing, I'm on board for it. RLL support us, so I'm happy to support them back. It's a two-way street, absolutely. And if they need me to do anything, then I'm sure we can come to some sort of agreement, and we can make the most of whatever opportunities may come up.
It's another example that we have here at VCO of real world and virtual world mixing. Did you ever have any ambition to do any real world karting or single seater stuff?
When I was younger, yeah, for sure. I think obviously I used to watch F1, and as a young kid, that's always kind of the dream to eventually go into that. But as you get older and you want to start pursuing it, I mean, I'd go karting at local kart tracks, or if we're away on a holiday, you'd go karting for a weekend or something like that. But as soon as you begin to realize and have an understanding of how much money actually goes into it,
Yeah.
it just doesn't. It just for 99.9% of us, it just doesn't become possible. I had the discussion with the family at the time, and ultimately it wasn't to be. But I hadn't set my absolute mind on it, so I didn't really. Wasn't a huge blow. It was just something that I enjoyed doing anyway. And then obviously when esports came around, getting involved in that it was the perfect outlet. We can still race at a really, really high level, but from home and for a fraction of the cost.
And you mentioned that the idea of winning money by doing it was also a bit of a motivator for you to make it a career.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we don't start out, wanting to race for money, but it's a nice added bonus. And especially, as I said, with the pandemic in 2020, it boosted esports in a direction that we could only have imagined at the start of the year. So, things went well for Apex, and we were able to position ourselves to where I can now do this as a full-time career. As much as I wouldn't have even dreamed it at the start of 2020. As soon as the pandemic hit, we worked really hard during the Porsche season, and Alex Simpson and everyone else at Apex worked really hard, and all our other business branches like the Academy, Apex TV, and everything else, and we had a full plan, and it seemed to just be the perfect opportunity to get me and a couple of other guys full time to really compete with guys, like the Coanda guys and the Red Bull guys. We can compete with them now on track since we have the time.
So, how did your world change by becoming a professional?
Certainly a lot more time spent in the seat, which we already spent a lot of time in the seat to begin with, but even more so now. It was, with how the pandemic kind of played out, I was furloughed anyway around about April, so I was already at home. And then as the year progressed, things looked more and more likely to become full time. So from April onwards, it didn't really change much, even from leaving my job. But in terms of being full time now, it's a lot of time just spent in the simulator, either driving or analyzing telemetry or doing work for Apex Academy, or just helping out wherever we can. It's not quite as easy as even I would have dreamed of. You just wake up and sit around and don't do much all day and still get paid for it. It's a hard graft. Loads of hours need to go into it, but the rewards are well worth it.
So, with your result at the weekend, do you now put yourself in a position where you feel that come what is it, end of April, the season finishes,
Mm-hmm.
you can be
Yeah.
still up there and fighting with Job and Rogers?
I mean, coming into the season, I was hoping to be an outside shot after the results from last season. Finishing fifth was a surprise for me last year. But coming in, I thought, right, okay, well, we obviously need to take a step forward. So if I can just be an outside title shot, that'd probably be pretty good going. It's a great feeling to be leading the championship after round one, but realistically, those guys are going to catch up eventually. I haven't got that big a gap, so yeah. I mean, if we can stay in the championship hunt until the final round, I'd be happy with that. But ultimately, being in first, you want to keep first, so we're going to do everything we can to hold it until Monza at the end of April. But ultimately, got to be realistic. Those guys are insane every single week, so we just got to keep pushing and see what we can achieve.
And interestingly, especially for this year, with the way that the calendar is, being such a condensed calendar, only being finished by the time we get into spring, by the looks of the pandemic, that's pretty much, and when you might get out of lockdown eventually, you really do have the ability to absolutely 100% 24 hours a day focus entirely on your performance for the next weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the few bright sides of the pandemic at the minute is there's not really any distractions to take you away from the rig. So, yeah, I mean, all our time can be dedicated into the Porsche effort, be it Carrera Esports Supercup or also Porsche GB for our guys who are in that as well. You know, we've targeted being at the front of both competitions. Winning them would obviously be awesome, but yeah, we've got the time to do it. We've got the team to do it. We just need to keep doing what we're doing and see every single weekend, even after the success of the weekend. I was still sitting until 1 a.m. this morning, looking through replays of the race from Saturday and just trying to analyse anything I could have done slightly better. Because obviously on Saturday, although the one was there, it was I did get a little bit fortunate. So there's still things I need to improve on a personal level. But yeah, we can spend so much time now just making sure that everything is as fine-tuned as we can get it. And yeah, we've got to just take the absolute maximum out of it and make the most of it where we can.
And obviously outside of the Porsche competitions, knowing that I think at least one of them ends in April, what are the other ambitions for the year? Do you have ambitions in the long distance special events, the second half of the year with the single seater world championship? Where you're seeing your focus?
It's quite hard at the minute to think past Porsche. It's such a massive commitment and it's such a huge championship that I haven't really thought too much past the start of May. The middle of next year, there's still a few things that I can't go into quite yet that might affect what happens and what race or what championships I compete in. But I've done a little bit of rallycross in the off season, and my pace actually wasn't too bad. So depending on how things play out and how the open wheel championship falls and where it falls, and even how the car handles, I might end up having to jump into rallycross for the second half of next year, and obviously do any kind of the special events that come up as well, and any other championships that might crop up. I mean, this could be something that crops up tomorrow that it's too good an opportunity not to go for. So at the minute, from May onwards, it's really, really hard to say. Focus is really just 1 week at a time for the Super Cup and Porsche Carrera Cup. Just make sure that we maximise those two championships, and then we'll see where the year takes us.
Very, very cool, though, that you can switch from dirt to the tarmac, because there's not many people that can do that successfully, other than, I suppose, Mitch.
Yeah, Mitchell's a guy I've looked up to for years. He's been rapid in absolutely everything. The F1 car back in the World Championship Grand Prix Series days, Rallycross, Porsche now, and of course he just made Coke Series and NASCAR. So I mean, the guy is quick in everything he drives. And I started out in oval racing on iRacing. Actually, I never started out on road. I started out doing IndyCar stuff on oval. So yeah, I've always liked to kind of dabble around and try different things. So I'd like to think that I can do what Mitchell's done, maybe not quite as good as what he's done it, but I'd like to think that with the right guys around me, that the potential is there, to compete at a high level in any kind of championship. And every year our team's getting stronger to the point where, we just won the Rallycross World Championship, came first and second with Johan Harth winning it and John Robertson coming second. So we've got the Rallycross team to do it. I've got the guys there to help me. So if I was to go and do Rallycross, I'm sure I've got the best in the business to help me.
And of course, Apex fully focused on iRacing. Have you ever dabbled or have any interest in racing on other platforms?
It's something we've definitely discussed. Me personally, I'm not hugely interested in other sims at the moment. iRacing takes up so much time between, competing in the competitions and then working on academy stuff. And, by the time all that's done, you just want to kind of relax as opposed to jumping into F1 esports or something like that. I think it's important to be diverse, though. Definitely backing yourself into just one sim isn't a bright idea in terms of, just as a driver or from a business standpoint. So, our brains or our minds are open to moving to other sims if need be, but at the moment, iRacing is, the best sim to race in. It's got the best competition. It's got the best drivers. It's got the best brands associated with it at the minute. From my personal standpoint, anyway, I think F1 Esports is obviously an awesome opportunity. It's got all the real life F1 teams in there as well, but iRacing I still think just has a bit of an edge for me personally. But I'm not going to discount any other kind of championship. If, as I say, if a great opportunity comes up, then we'll send it.
Well, it's been great to chat with you, and thank you so much for spending some time with us here at VCO. And I guess, again, congratulations on a wicked first weekend back in, the first weekend effectively in 2021.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. It was great to get the message from you, and obviously we couldn't say no. I had to come and say hi, and no, I really appreciate you guys having me on. It's been a magical start to the year, and hopefully the rest of the year is even half as good as this. It'd be awesome. So yeah, thanks a lot, guys.
Make sure you tune into everything that's happening here at the VCO, whether it be on our YouTube channel, Twitter, follow across all the different platforms. We've got Instagram as well, and we've got plenty of championships coming up for you across January, whether it be endurance, whether it be iRacing or R Factor 2, or our Pro Sim series, the next round on the 20th of January. For the moment, though, next Monday, next chat show, and who knows who we'll be chatting to. We'll line someone up juicy for you, and then we might have our first discussion round table at the end of the month as well, with a couple of very special guests. But for now, congratulations and thank you very much to Kevin Ellis Jr. for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Bye bye.